listening to the First City Lax podcast, brought to you every week from the Florida Panhandle. Coach John and Coach JP explore the best and worst of lacrosse on the Gulf Coast. So strap your helmets on and let's go.
And welcome back once again. I am Coach John with my co-host, as always, Coach JP. This is First City Lacrosse Podcast, the second greatest lacrosse podcast on the planet. JP, welcome. And
soon to be the first.
And we have a special guest with us today, everyone. I would like to welcome Spencer Pickrell. Spencer, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on.
I appreciate you being willing to do this. So, Spencer, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, kind of what you're doing right now, your lacrosse background, and take just a minute so we can get to know you a little bit.
Okay, so I'm Coach Pickrell, or Coach Pick for short. I grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland, just outside of DC, and I started playing lacrosse probably when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I played for a local rec league just like we have here. It was the Montgomery Village Sports Association. I fell in love with it instantly. I fell in love with the history of it, and it was kind of like captivating that, you know, the Native Americans played this, 1,000 years ago. So I always used to like say to my buddies that played baseball, they're like, baseball is America's sport. And I was like, no, lacrosse is America's sport, because we've been playing it longer. So, but yeah, I fell in love with the game and been involved with it in some form or another for 30 years. So whether it's playing in the rec league, in middle school, in high school, and then I didn't play in college, although that's one of my big regrets. I enlisted in the Marine Corps and I served overseas. I played a little bit of lacrosse, and when I was stationed in Okinawa, we did some tournaments in Tokyo. And then I came back, I kind of got married and started coaching my stepson. And I've been coaching ever since. And that was for a really prominent program called Keller Lacrosse in Fort Worth, Texas. I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but they have a really good program. And actually, they just got a new head coach to their high school, which is Justin Anderson. He's a PLL player. Plays for the Archers, I believe. But yeah, so that's my history with lacrosse. Like, I've just been doing it for a long time. I love it. I'm semi-obsessed with it. So it's all my kids play.
You're obsessed. It's not semi.
Yeah, so all my kids play. I have 3 boys: Landon, Carter, Mason, and then my daughter also plays. So it's like a family ordeal with me. My brother played. He played in college too. So it's just kind of, it's in my family. My mom played, in the 70s. My uncles played in the 80s. Yeah. So because they grew up in Pikesville, right outside of Towson, Maryland. So that's the birthplace. So they've been playing for a long time. And
dude, that's really cool. Talk about a family sport. I mean, wow. You know what I mean? You don't hear a lot about women's lacrosse, and like to go that far back, that's impressive, man.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
It is pretty impressive. And I think I commented on one of your guys' posts that my mom was the one that suggested it to me, and I had no idea even what the sport was. I was playing soccer and I was terrible at it, and I was sitting on the bench the whole time.
There, done that.
So yeah, I love it.
I think that's how a lot of adults end up in the game. I know that's how I sort of ended up, because I didn't know anything about lacrosse until actually I moved here, which is so weird because I've, like you, been in the military. And let me just say, from one vet to another, I appreciate your service. We hear that all the time. Thank you for your service. But
thank you.
I think a lot of people don't understand some of the sacrifice that goes into it. And but from someone like me and someone like you, I think we get it. So I appreciate that. And then continue to serve the community through your lacrosse program and continuing to coach and make sure that your players and your kids have that opportunity is really commendable. You got time for a couple rapid fires and we'll jump into it?
Sure.
All right. What book are you reading? You got a favorite?
My favorite book, probably Lone Survivor. I read that, immediately hooked to it. The last book I read, though, was The Hard Hat, about the Cornell lacrosse player. I did a fundraiser last year and raised $1,000 to buy all of the players on my team that book, and I handed it out at the beginning of the season.
How many books is that?
I think it was like 30 or something like that.
Wow.
That's going to
What's
go
it
to
called?
reading
The
list.
hard hat? Yeah, it has to now.
Because,
Yeah.
like, we ask everyone, like, what book they're reading. So now we literally need to post, like, a book section, like, read this, this, and this. Seriously, we should do that. We need to now.
All right. You're in charge of that, JP.
Yeah, The Hard Hat. You got to read it if you haven't read it. It's a great book. Also, Lone Survivor.
It's going on the list. Yep. Read that one.
Yeah.
Read that one. You got a favorite podcast or YouTube show or anything you're kind of watching right now?
I don't watch YouTube really, unless it's lacrosse related, but I listen to Joe Rogan. He's my absolute favorite podcaster ever. I mean, the guys that he has
The
on,
one podcaster of the world.
it's crazy. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's just funny and then serious. And then it could go on for hours. And I kind of, sometimes on some of his guests, I'm like, man, I wish he had him on for like another 2 hours. I could listen to this guy.
Yeah.
Well, it's like he's
I'm with
humble, funny, and interesting all at the same time. That's all you need.
Yeah. You remind me
And
a
he
little
is-
bit of him, JP. You kind of got his swagger a little bit.
There you go.
Why? Because I have no hair?
Well, I didn't
No,
even
he
know you had
said-
no hair.
Joe Rogan says he doesn't, his interviews and his podcast last so long because he feels like you can't get to know somebody in less than like 2 or 3 hours. And so
Dude, that's.
I think his
like,
version is like, it's hard to fake for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to
Just-
be real, right?
He's amazing.
Yeah. You got a favorite player, Coach Pick? Favorite coach? Anybody you try to model yourself after?
When I was younger, it was Gary Gate.
Yeah.
Just in the last decade, probably Pat Spencer. I loved his style. He just got like a really unique style that I really liked. But those are probably the two ones I really liked.
You follow any teams? I know you said, the guy running Keller Lacrosse right now is from the Archers. You got a favorite team that you follow? PLL, college, anybody like that?
I'm a Maryland guy, so I always root for Maryland. I always root for the Terrapins. As far as like professional, I don't really follow a team. I follow like a lot of players. I'm more into like to watching individual players. I mean, I love Brendan O'Neill. He's amazing to watch. They're all pretty good at that level. So I don't have a favorite though. I don't think.
Every game has a dozen highlights. It's so much fun to watch. All right, let's jump into something that's really important. This is something I want to get out in front of people because, as you know, we were talking before we hit the record button that lacrosse is a family, and it's a close family. And even though we're competitors on the field, it is such a tight-knit community that when tragedy strikes, we have to take that opportunity to take care of each other. And you had a situation that happened recently with one of your players' families. You want to talk about that for a minute or two?
Yeah, sure. So I have a player. He's a goalie on my JV team. His name is Will Bussing, and his home tragically burned down a few weeks ago. And when I heard about it, I immediately wanted to do something for the family because I called his mom. I was like, hey, I heard. It was right before the Capital City Classic tournament. So, I was already short on goalies. So, I wanted to check in on him and see how he was doing. And his mom was like, all of his gear's gone. Our house is, in ashes. So I did the GoFundMe before. So I had a little bit of experience when I raised the money for the hard hat book. So I was like, I can do this in like 2 seconds. So I went on there, I wrote something and I started the GoFundMe and our goal was $5,000. We surpassed that. We're at 1,200 and some change. I actually closed donations a few days ago because I wasn't sure, like I wanted to be able to give this money and I didn't know how long it was going to take to deposit the funds. So the donations are turned off right now. Since this podcast, I'm going to go right after the podcast, I'll go back in and turn on the donations. And let's just say we'll go to like the 1st of January. And that will, and then I'll set up something. So my whole plan was and I already talked to Will's mom about this, is to like present her with the check for however much money we raise. And I'd like to get everybody involved, the whole community. I'm going to do it at a public place, probably City Hall in Gulf Breeze. And we can present her with the check and we can get, if you donated and you want to come out, come out. If you didn't donate and you want to come out, come out. I talked to Jason Thompson. He's a photographer and a writer for the Gulf Breeze Gazette, or I forget the Journal or
Gulf Breeze.
Gulf Breeze News. So he said he was going to come out and cover that. So it should be, a really special thing to be able to give this family, some money to cover some of their losses. But
yeah, Will is such a good kid. I've coached him as well. And that family, they have a special place in my heart as well. Just, it's hard to talk about it a little bit because, they would do it for us, but it's like it's happened to your own family member a little bit. And you definitely like taking the initiative and raising that money so quickly is awesome. So for our listeners out there, we're going to drop the GoFundMe link in the show notes. We're going to post it in the comments when we put this on Facebook and Instagram. And I hope everybody remembers these moments and those kids that play. Like this is what the lacrosse family is all about. This is the important things that we talk about, especially when, we're trying to make these young men and young women turn them into leaders. These are the experiences that help shape them.
And I appreciate you guys posting that. As much money as we can raise, the more the better.
Absolutely. Well, we'll do what we can from our end. We'll try to get it out there. I hope everyone just feels generous and is willing to help. Even a little bit helps for something like this when we all kind of get together.
A little bit.
All right. Let's shift gears a little bit. Coach, you run a local lacrosse program and you coach at the high school. Can you share some of the things that you have done to sort of build your program and some of the things that you've seen and maybe some of the obstacles you've overcome in order to get to where you are? And for those that don't know, your program is, your local program is one of the largest, if not the largest in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Gulf Breeze we have a really good lacrosse program, a good base. It really all started. There's a couple like influential people that had really, got this program going. Michael Markham is one of them. You guys all know Mike. You probably see him on the field, reffing a game. He is very influential when it comes to Gulf Breeze lacrosse. John Willis is another one. And there's a few: John Willis, Justin Sontag, Jeff Worrell, myself. Like there's a few guys that have really just stuck with it and encouraged kids to play. So right now, as it stands, I just talked to Jeff the other day. We have 41 players at the U14 level, and we have 36 players at the U12 level. So if you can imagine, that's almost 80 players. No, that's just boys.
Wow.
That's just boys.
It's impressive.
So yeah, we have some pretty big classes coming up. And now, I don't think all of them will probably stick with it. I hope they do. So that number will probably dwindle a little bit because it is a complicated sport and it takes a lot of dedication to become good at it. You can't just pick up a stick and play. You guys know that. You really have to hone those skills. And it's not for everybody. It's physical, it's violent, and just some people just can't stay with it. But yeah, we're doing really well. And Blackwater, I started Blackwater. I got the LLC started because there was a few seasons where there were no summer programs or they were being thrown together last minute. So I initially started Blackwater and then didn't do anything with it. And then when Coach McCauley resigned from being the head coach, the Bison program kind of fell through, and Landon loves lacrosse, and I wanted, it sounds kind of selfish, but I wanted my son to have a place to play. And all of he has a really big friend group that all play, and I wanted them to all be able to play as well. So I talked to Justin and I was like, let's start Blackwater lacrosse. And that's kind of just how it happened. And originally it was just a high school program, but I think this summer we're going to branch out into the youth arena. There's a guy named Dan Christensen who is going to head a U12 team. And basically what I tell all the coaches, because I'm only one person, I can't do everything. So I have to have other coaches. So I tell anybody, absolutely, you can use my name, you can use the program name, as long as you're willing to coach it, because I can't have 10 different teams and coach 10 different teams. So it's just started off as a high school program, and now we have 2 high school teams, and we're going to branch out into the U12 arena because someone else wants to coach it. And it's going pretty well. We play in Georgia. We played in Orlando over the last 2 years. We're good. I mean, we're pretty good. Our high school team is very good. We didn't win anything except for that sixes tournament, but I mean, we're competing. We lost a 1 goal to Lake Mary's club team. Who else did we play? Did we play the Jesuit team? We only lost by like 2 goals. Like, we're hanging with some of the best teams in Florida. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Wow.
And I couldn't do it alone.
Yeah. Well, can we talk about that for a second? Because I think that's what a lot of program directors and programs kind of struggle with, is attracting coaches and building the right type of staff. So what kind of things have you done? Because you clearly, you've been doing this for a while now, and you've clearly built this program, and you and I both know you can't do it without the support of the parents and the families and your coaches. So what kind of things have you done to attract and keep your coaches, to keep your parents engaged, and to keep your players coming back?
Attracting coaches, man, I think I've gotten pretty lucky, honestly. Last year was a good year. We have a connection through Jeff Whirl, and he's a helicopter pilot up at NAS Whitingfield. I also work at Whitingfield for Sinatra, which is it's a Navy training command. But he has a link to, the Navy guys that were coming out of the academy down here to become pilots. So last year we got 3 phenomenal coaches, actually 4, and then 1 picked up pilot training like right away. So he couldn't help, but these guys were instrumental in helping out. It's also good to have other obsessed lacrosse guys around you. And Justin Sontag is one of those obsessed guys. And we talk about lacrosse almost every single day. And it's just great to have those people around you, because it never really dies. Like, it's a daily thing for us. So me and Justin, and then bringing on Tony was awesome. Tony Barranca, who's a phenomenal coach out of Navarre. He came over to the program, and we've just gotten lucky. Rob Lee also, he's been part of the program. I think he's going to do it this one last year and be part of the high school. His son, Cody Lee, was our goalie last year. He's a senior, he graduated, but Rob's going to stay on another season. We've just been lucky. Honestly, that's what it is. We try to get the best guys. We try to reach out to them, talk to them, get them out to the practices. Like, it's just luck, I think.
Well, I know about a dozen coaches that would love to have that luck. So that's good. Ride that train as long as you can, for sure. What are you most excited about this year? I know you've got, like you said, you've got some great players. You've had some really good teams. You guys went to, let's see, your high school team went to regionals last year, correct? All right. Did you
went
had
to
districts and regionals, correct?
Went to regionals, played PV, and I just don't think we were prepared mentally or physically to compete with them. I think this year, I'm probably most excited this year. We have 20 seniors returning. It is probably the best chance we have at making a state title run that Gulf Breeze has ever had, honestly. We have a returning All-American, Austin Michler. We have a phenomenal defense. You got Max Brantley, Ethan Ruddick, and Logan Hensey, and then you have Jackson Stevens in goal. That package right there is really strong. We have a couple. We got 1 pickup this spring. Nick Simmons moved from Pace. He was a really phenomenal Gulf Breeze player when he was in middle school. He then went and played quarterback at Pace, but he's back for his senior year at Gulf Breeze. So he's going to play lacrosse for us. He's going to be a really great defensive midi. We also have Payne Mitchell, awesome, which we got from Catholic. We're star-studded. We have a lot of really great players. Yeah, I can name them all off. Ben Kozarts, Wesley Morrill. You have Landon Pickrell. You have Nathan Story, Tate Claudio, like Parker Harrelson, Hudson Brady, JT Parvin. Like, you have a serious amount of kids that can ball. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what we can do. I really hope we take this as far as humanly possible this year.
That'll be awesome to see. Yeah, I know we got you guys on our schedule for high school. I'll be totally honest. I'm not looking forward to that game. We are going to be ready for it, as ready as we could possibly be, but we know what we're in for. And that's one of those things that when you play a team of that caliber, like what you say, when you play a team like Ponte Vedra or Lake Mary or something like that, you have to be mentally prepared to be like, every single rep has to matter. And that includes the practice reps, the mental reps going on in your head beforehand. And then, if you end up on the wrong side of that game, you have to walk away from it like remembering the lessons that those other players have taught you. That'll be cool.
I've seen your boys practice. A few guys show up with shiny helmets on Sundays, and they're throwing, catching around, shooting goals, and they're learning. They're not arguing, they're learning, and they're trying to teach each other. So that says a lot, man.
And this is on Sunday?
On Sundays.
You talking about on Sunday, JP?
I know they're Gold Priest kids. Yeah, I'm just saying in general, I'd take my kid out there and our friends and go shoot or something like that. And those kids were out there just, running drills by themselves, like 4 or 5 of them. I was like, wow, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we try to stay on them about that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We try to stay on them about that. Me and Justin are really big about getting them out and playing every single day. More so wall ball, but yeah, shooting, running drills. I mean, if they want to do that, that's great. But I always tell my kids that if you can pass and catch everything, if you can pass well and you can catch everything that's thrown at you, there's a place for you on the field. So getting on that wall is like the most important thing. I just had this conversation with a JV player the other night, and he wanted to know kind of like where he sat, and I had a very frank and honest conversation with him and just told him, like, if you can learn how to catch everything that's thrown at you, then you have a place on the field, because that's important. And if you're coughing off the ball or you're dropping the ball, there's no place for you on the field. You have to be able to control your stick. You have to be able to keep the ball in your stick, and you have to be able to catch everything that's thrown to you. And I mean everything. So we stay on them about that. Getting them out there and keeping them out there is we're always on them.
Goes back to fundamentals. Every single podcast, it's all about fundamentals.
Yep. I hope everyone listening figures that out, because there's really no substitute for the experience.
And if they don't know what we're talking about, basics and fundamentals are pretty much the same thing in lacrosse. And I mean, every single time we talk is fundamentals. Get out there, hit the wall every day. That's what you got to do.
Coach, what kind of things have you done? What kind of things have helped you prepare? As a coach, I know you talked previously about some playing experience when you were younger, but as a coach, what kind of things have you done to help you prepare for both the coaching side of it at the rec level, and then how that shifted gears to coaching at the competitive high school level?
Yeah, I was a terrible coach when I first started. I mean, I knew a lot about the game as a player, but I didn't know how to teach anybody lacrosse. I don't know if you guys can relate to that, and I can remember I had this one kid, and I can't remember for the life of me his name, but it was at Keller Lacrosse. And fortunately, I had like a really good mentor. His name was Chris Walker. He played at TCU, and he was probably 10 or 15 years older than me back then. And I was like in my mid-20s, and I was getting on this kid. Like, I was up his butt and like just grilling him about everything. And I remember Chris, he had to pull me aside one time, and he was like, all right, so anytime you need to, correct someone or correct this player, I need you to give him like 2 that-a-boys. He's like, you're just being relentless. I was young. I did not know how to coach. And like, this is how I was as a player. Like, if you were on my team and you were dropping the ball, like, I was on you because I put in the work not to drop the ball. So if I'm going to be out here and you're going to be out here with me, you're going to learn how to not drop the ball as well. So I was on this kid, and that really stuck with me. Honestly, that little bit of advice I will never forget. And it's kind of how I coach now. Like I try to remember that they're kids. They need hard coaching, but they're also kids and they need a little bit of pick me up too. And I think coaching at the youth level and dealing with the younger kids has really prepared me to coach at the next level, because I kind of like, I found all my faults as a coach per se at the youth level. So I just feel like I'm better prepared. And I was able to deal with like kids that don't listen or, don't want to be there. It's like you get like the whole gambit at the youth level. And then at the high school level, you get the kids that are more serious about the sport. And it becomes a lot more fun. And you get into, the little things about the game, like, how to position your body. You start getting into, offensive and defensive concepts and actually learning the intricacies of the game, where the slides are coming from, how to deal with pressure, how to read a defenseman or how to read an offensive man. I mean, the game is infinitely complicated. Yeah. And that's teaching that side of the ball is really fun.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think a lot of new high school coaches, I know I had a steep learning curve my first year. And I know JP is in his first year coaching high school here too. And the learning curve with not only how to talk to players, but the game at the high school level is much more technical. And it's still a flexible game, but it's
technical.
It's
so
technical. Yeah.
Technical.
There's strategy involved. There's certain things we do that, it might look like nothing's happening on the field, but when we're passing the ball around, when the other team's in man down, we're looking at the defense. We're trying to figure out like, okay, no, who's going to end up with the shorty? Who's the slow slide going to be? Like, who's got the slow feet on defense? That's the guy we want to take advantage of. That's the person we want to attack. And so doing those things that might seem boring to everybody else who doesn't understand some of those concepts is actually, it's a very technical thing that's happening. I'm trying to figure out what the next step is going to be. So I'm glad you shared that, because I think that's good advice for a lot of coaches out there, even experienced coaches. Just understand that these kids, at the end of the day, they're still just kids. It is just a game. We want to win. We want to be competitive. And we want to teach these young men and young women how to be future leaders. And, we have to teach them mental toughness, and we can use the game to do that. But if when you had to learn that lesson from the other coach about just being relentless, that could have been that may have been the life-changing moment that now you have this amazing program and all these teams, and you've influenced all these other kids positively. So that's awesome to hear, man. That's super cool.
Thank you.
I think, my 2 cents in, it's like, we're coaching these kids, and if we've been coaching them for 2, 3, 4 years, it's a blessing. And then you have the other kids you have not been coaching that long. It's like, wow, what do I do? Because you get past your comfort zone. You know what I mean? So, but what I want you, Coach Pick, is so being, I want to say, further into being a coach, what would you say to your younger coach self? Like, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, I was reading that. So I'm reading your questions before this thing a couple hours ago, and I'm thinking about them. And I saw that one. If it was me as a young player, if I could go back in time and give myself some advice as a young player, I would say, because I really believe one of my biggest regrets in life is not playing in college. I was a very good player in high school. I played for Watkins Mill High School. It's a public school. And we were a powerhouse for over a decade. Chip Bondi and Lee Corrigan, Kevin Corrigan's younger brother, that was my offensive coach. And he was a phenomenal coach, and we were really good. And I was a pretty good player. I would say to myself, do good in school. Not doing good in school and not having that desire to go to college was probably my downfall for not playing in college. So if I were to go back, I would say you got to do good in school, because that would have been my ticket. I would have gone on to college. I would have played in college. I would have, gotten into the schools that I applied for. I probably would have gotten a D1 scholarship. Like, though, that was the whole crux of me not playing in college, was me just not being into school. And I wish I was. If I could go back and as a coach, man, I don't know. I think study the game sooner. Like, I knew how to play and I knew like how to do it in my head, but I didn't know like all of the real concepts until I became a full-fledged adult and I started like having to teach it. And then I'm like, God, this is a lot more complicated than just going out there, picking up the ball and doing a split dodge and shooting it and scoring. They have a plan, and I don't know if I'm executing it correctly, but I mean, I was able to put the ball in the back of the net. So, but yeah, be a student of the game.
Yeah. That's such good advice. It's good for our players too to hear,
Yeah.
because, a lot of times they think the same thing. Hey, I don't have to run a play. I'm just going to dodge and shoot. I can shoot on the run. I can shoot right or left-handed, and it's just like, well, there's 9 other guys out there, or on the girls' side, there's 11 other players out there. You cannot do it yourself. You have to rely on your teammates.
Mm-hmm.
JP, what you have? I interrupted you there.
Nothing, man. Like, every time I have so many questions for everybody, what I was going to say. Kind of lost
You're
that for a
good.
second.
Sorry, that's my fault. All right, Coach. Well, we're getting a little long on time here, but I wanted to ask, what does your future look like? How long are you going to keep doing this?
Let's see. I don't know, probably forever. As long as I have good people around me that are into it as much as I am. I mean, like I said,
it's not supposed to be a trick
like,
question.
I'll do it forever, honestly, until I can't do it anymore. I've been doing it for so long. I love it. Like, love it, love it. I'm very passionate about it. I'll do it for as long as I can, honestly, until my wife tells me I can't do it anymore, or I got to do something else. But for right now, there's no end in sight. I have a lot of plans. So I'll share one of my goals or one of my plans with you before we get off. So there's a huge problem here in the Panhandle with field space. I got you. Field space is an immense problem here in the Panhandle. I'm sure you guys run into it. It's a terrible thing. And there's nothing really dedicated to lacrosse. So I think,
Not at all.
a goal of mine is I'd like to be able to raise enough money to buy, I don't know how much land, 50 acres, let's just say 50 acres, somewhere not too far out of reach, and build a lacrosse complex. It's not just specifically for lacrosse. We can do football, we can do soccer, but it would have an indoor facility for box lacrosse, and it would have a bunch of outdoor fields for field lacrosse. And
That'd be awesome.
lacrosse would have priority on these fields. And I think, to me, and having a place dedicated for lacrosse where, teams can have tournaments and we can bring in outside teams and they have a place to stay and enjoy our beautiful city and just everything that the Panhandle has to offer. I think that would be great. There are a few places around here, but not local to Pensacola and not lacrosse specific. A lot of the soccer programs have taken over field space. And it's a battle to get it. And I would love just to have a facility to play lacrosse at. So that is one of my goals in the next decade, is to try and do that. I might fail, but I think I'm going to give it the old college try.
No, you won't fail, man. The thing is, like, up north, there's lacrosse fields everywhere. Down here, soccer fields, baseball fields, football fields. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's spreading, though. I mean, the Gold Breeze field, the nice turf field by the library, they have creases, like, pre-painted on there with goals and stuff. So that's a start,
Yeah.
So let's grow the sport. I mean, obviously you're here already, so the sport's going to grow. So thank you for all you do.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys too. You guys are growing the sport. This podcast is great. I hope, 1 million people listen to it, honestly.
Man, that would be awesome. Well, I will say this, not tooting our own horn. We have a long way to go, but JP and I were talking about this yesterday. And so a quick shout out of appreciation to all of our listeners and the people who continue to like, share, follow. Our reach has expanded. In the last 3 weeks. We've increased by about 6,000%, which is absolutely amazing. You know, the amount of people we were reaching on week 1, and now that we're a few weeks into it, it's been awesome to watch it grow. So it's because of guys like you that come on are willing to do this, and it's just the ability to get out in front of the right people at the right time. So speaking of that, Coach, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to contact you? If they want to learn about Blackwater Lacrosse or Gulf Breeze Lacrosse, or if they want to contribute to the GoFundMe, how do they get in touch with you?
I have an Instagram page, Blackwater Lacrosse. I also have a Facebook page, Blackwater Lacrosse. And then they can email me at blackwaterlacrosse.com. No, I'm sorry, blackwaterlacrosse@gmail.com. And I'm always answering. I'm always, scouring the pages, watching lacrosse videos. So if you DM me, I will definitely answer you.
I appreciate it. JP, you got anything else for Coach Pick?
No, man, that's good. We're all good, man. I appreciate
Awesome.
you sitting down with us. Means a lot. It really does. So,
Yeah.
I mean, every time we have somebody on here, the sport's growing in the Panhandle every time, man. So it's awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Probably won't be the last time we have you on. I promise you that.
No, we got to get an update on Will's GoFundMe in the future. So, hey, everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us this time. As always, give us a like, share, and follow. If you like what you hear, shoot us a message. You can find us also on Instagram and Facebook at First City Lacrosse. That's 1ST City Lax. We look forward to hearing from you. Coach Pick, it's been a pleasure. Coach JP, I will see you, of course, next time. And everybody else, get your reps in, be a good human, and we will see you all.
Thanks, gentlemen.
If you like what you hear, drop us a like and follow wherever you downloaded this podcast from, and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at First City Labs. Check back every week for more content. Thank you for being a part of the First City Lacrosse podcast.